Okay, let's get started. So if you like, Nick, you can drop our banner. Hi. Now we can see you a little bit better. So my name's Jessie-Lee. I'm going to help moderate this conversation tonight, and I want to introduce you to some really great people at BGC Ottawa. And I also want to let you know we do want to hear your questions tonight and comments. So again, feel free to put that in the chat, and Nick will be able to monitor those as we go. Also, we were getting questions from our communications at bgcottawa.org email recently, and we'll be consolidating those too. So for now, what I'd like to do is to say thank you so much for being here tonight. We deeply appreciate it. It's been a really interesting time for us at BGC Ottawa. I want to introduce, though, a really wonderful panelist first up. He's a member, and his name is Adam. And I hope you don't mind, Adam Osiren. I'm going to read a little bit of a summary about you, okay? And so I'm going to read this just because I don't want to get it wrong. So Adam is one of our most consistent members despite the pandemic. Adam takes part in 2 of our biggest programs at the Tomlinson Family Foundation Clubhouse, among others, our basketball programs and Raise the Grade. Adam is a respectful young man with a passion for learning and growing. We enjoy having him in our clubhouse as he brings a polite, friendly, and respectful attitude every time he steps through the doors. So thank you so much, Adam, for being here. I also want to introduce a few other people on the discussion today. So we have over here, Adam Joyner, our CEO. Give a wave, Adam. Great. Stephen Beckta, our board chair. Welcome, Stephen. We have Jonelle Istead, our Chief Advancement Officer, and Medin Admasu, our Chief Programs Officer. So welcome. Thank you so much. All right, so first up, Adam, we're going to start with you. So we wanted to ask a couple questions. So just to start, Adam, can you tell us a little bit about what the last year has been like for you?
So the last year at the Boys and Girls Club, it's been good. He taught me a lot of stuff, like he taught me how to apply to universities, scholarships, and grow. I forgot the name, but they give you money. It's like a scholarship. And then he taught me how to get my resume and how to save money, and like when I grow up, so when I go up to college or university, how I can save money without being like losing money left and right.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. And Adam, just a little bit more. Tell us about your sports engagement and activity and what it was like before the pandemic and what it was like now. I know that you've been really involved at the club. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So like before the pandemic, I would go every day, and I still go every day. They have people that train me, like staff, so Justin, and then Mark, and then some other staff members help me train. And then they brought in someone for presidential. He has a program where he teaches us how to do drills, and they really help me just get better at the sport and help me improve in basketball. And during the lockdown or the pandemic, when we were in a lockdown, they would have like Zoom calls, and then I would hop on the Zoom call. They would like teach me how I can study basketball or how I can like train. And I would train with Mark. He would give me some workouts to do, and I would just tell him if I like them or not. They're pretty good.
That's great. So you did basketball training by Zoom?
Yeah, it's like conditioning workouts. Yeah.
I love that. That's great. And so, Adam, I know that things are closed right now at the clubhouse, and there's a lot of virtual programming still. What are you looking forward to in the next little while for some of the things that you're doing at BGC Ottawa?
What do you mean by that question?
Well, I know you're going to continue to train, and you're still working on homework, but are there other things that you're doing as well?
Yeah, there's Raise the Grade. I always go there. They help me with my homework, and then they teach me like how I can apply to universities and how I can be a better leader and a better person.
That's great. Thanks, Adam. And if someone had never been to BGC Ottawa or a clubhouse maybe they were a little worried about showing up and not knowing anybody, what would you say to them?
Well, I would just like stay with them, try to get to know the person, and then like just introduce them to some people, and just like try let them feel comfortable in the Boys and Girls Club.
That's great, Adam. Well, thanks, Adam. We really appreciate you joining this conversation, and it sounds like it's a place that you really like going, right?
Yeah, I enjoy going there.
That's great. Thanks, Adam. Well, I wish you every success. I know you're going to continue to do well, and I hope one day soon that I get to see you at a Clubhouse in person. Okay?
Yeah, thank you very much.
My pleasure. We'll see you later.
All right, have a good day. Bye.
Bye, Adam. Well, that was Adam. What a pleasure. And we're so lucky to hear how he's doing in his own words. Okay, so we're going to go on now and ask a few other questions. And again, please don't forget to write your questions in the chat. Nick will be looking at those very, very shortly. And as well, we have a few polls that we're going to be launching. So I think we might even have one that we are launching very shortly. Let's see. Okay. We're going to launch a poll right now. What is your favorite BGC Ottawa pillar? Oh, I see people voting. Excellent. Okay. All right. We're going to give you a little bit more time. All right, education is in the lead. It's neck and neck with leadership and social skills. Oh, education is pulling ahead. Hang on. Okay, creative arts is doing okay. Physical activity and healthy lifestyle is only 8%. I'm just going to let you know that right now. Okay, we'll just give you another couple seconds to weigh in if you want to. Okay, so I'm going to end that poll. So education, clear leader with 42%, leadership and social skills, 33%, creative arts, 17%, and physical activity and healthy lifestyle at an 8%. But that is okay. That is all right. I think we're all trying to get our walks in every day right now, but you know, we'll be able to share a little bit more about what we do at the BGCO in terms of that. So I wanted to start with you, Steve. It's been quite the year going into 2 years, hasn't it?
Yeah, it sure has.
Yeah. And as board chair, I mean, you've seen a lot in 2020 and 2021. Could you talk a little bit about how BGC Ottawa has pivoted, has changed their programming?
So we've done a lot of things. I think most importantly, when the pandemic hit, we just tried to figure out, okay, how do we care for our members first and foremost? Let's throw away the old playbook, everything that was done up until then about, you know, this is the way that we care for members. This is the way we help them grow. It all had to go out the window because we couldn't see people in person. And that was everything for us before. So we just tried to figure out new ways of doing things. Very quickly, we pivoted to becoming a food bank suddenly because we thought the people in our communities, what do they need the most? A lot of these families that are members, you know, they lost their jobs. They were suddenly laid off. They didn't know if there would be any government programs. And so we wanted to get them the bare essentials. We wanted to get them food first. And then it was like, okay, the federal government program started rolling out. You know, people have some income if they've lost their job. It's so important that we make them feel like they're still part of that community. So how do we do this? So the virtual outreach, we figured out a calling system so that all of our staff members could use their cell phones, but it would show up on their caller ID as Boys and Girls Club, so that when you called people at home, they would actually pick up. And we just tried to reach out and connect with our members to let them know that we're thinking about them, to ask them how they're doing, how are they surviving this, what do they need, and just really try to be that lifeline for them, because isolation is just so tough, especially for so many of our members. A lot of our members are new Canadians and they just don't know what the systems are that are in place to support people who live here. And I think that was very important. And then we said, okay, we want to do more of this. How do we connect with our members more? So virtual programming was started. And that was not an easy thing, but we probably pulled it off in about 3 weeks' time. You know, the whole team just sort of rallied together and said, okay, let's suddenly create this whole new virtual Clubhouse and find ways to get our members engaged. And then there was the Neighborhood Ambassador program, which, you know, goes around to literally people's houses, even with stay-at-home orders, to be able to check in on our members and their families. And it's so powerful when you do this, because they just need to know that we care, that there's other people in the community that are looking out for them, and that they're still part of this grander community, even if we can't connect in person. So I think there's a lot of lessons. I think the walls of our clubhouse going forward are going to be a little more malleable, where we connect with more of our members at home or on the playgrounds or outside of our clubhouses in the future, because that's just the way that life is. It's not so sectionalized of, you know, clubhouse and home. That's, if anything, that the pandemic has taught us, is that we need to connect with our members however and wherever they happen to be.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that, Steve. And you know, what strikes me is how BGC Ottawa has been so incredibly flexible, and I think that's a real testament to the passion of the staff and leadership, and the deep investment in the mission, right? And I wanted to ask you a question, Steve, from the chat box. So I did notice that one of our attendees asked, how many members are on the board? So that should be...
So, yeah, 15.
There we go. And is there a cross-representation on the board? And so I'm not sure about cross-representation, but I understand there are some alumni represented on the board, you being one of them. Is that correct?
Correct. Okay. Yeah, so I went to the Boys and Girls Club starting when I was 8 years old until I was about 11 and a half, when my dad moved us out of downtown, and then I couldn't go to a Boys and Girls Club anymore, and that made me very sad. You know, Boys and Girls Club made a huge impact on me as a child, and so it was easy to get involved with them again when it was that time in my life. We do have a lot of alumni. I mean, there's 3 of us on the screen here, Adam and Medin, both were members, and hopefully still think of themselves as members. I certainly do. And
sorry, Steve, I'll just add that our Marketing Communications Officer, Nick, is also an alumni. So
amazing. I did not know that, Nick. Welcome to the club. So I think maybe what this person's question was in terms of representation on the board, is this potentially around equity and diversion?
I think that's a good discussion to have. And so can you speak a little bit to how we're working with equity, diversity, and inclusion principles on the board and in governance?
Sure. I'm going to be probably more frank than people around the table want to hear right now, but I think it's important. So Medin was our first minority board member since I've been on the board. And he applied for this new role that we posted last year, Chief Programs Officer. And we were so excited to have him take on that role. But he wrote a letter when he was resigning from the board, as you have to when you take a staff position. And he talked about him being the first person of color in a senior management position at the Boys and Girls Club in its 100-year history. And this was shocking to me. I grew up, you know, seeing diversity all around me. The Boys and Girls Club are an incredibly diverse place, but I didn't know the senior leadership or the board. And I knew right then and there that we needed to do a whole lot better, both on the senior leadership level, but also on the board level. And so we had a few board seats open, and we specifically went hard to try to find people that represented our communities a lot better than we did. And I think we have made some good starts, but I think there's a lot more to be done. So only in this last governance committee, governance review about the makeup of our board, have we started to look very deeply into how we recruit our new board members. how we view them through the lens of EDI, and also alumni, people who have actually gone to the club and enjoyed that lived experience that we're trying to represent with the Boys and Girls Club. So I think it's so important that we keep pushing this and keep doing it, because the board should be representative of the communities that we serve and the skill sets that we need in order to have the governance and have the leadership that the club requires.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you. And I'm going to take a detour now because I know we had a little bit of a lineup, but Medin, I think it would be a really good time for me to ask you, with everything that's happened, especially in 2020, leading into 2021, and Black Lives Matter, and all the work that's being done at the club, can you share a little bit about some of those initiatives? Because I think that ties into a little bit of what Steve was talking about.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. So, I mean, this is an exciting piece of the work that we're doing now, and I don't want to steal your thunder, Adam, if this was some of what you're going to talk about, but I'll steal a little bit of it. So, we decided, a lot of organizations either hired some sort of staffing to work on this piece of the work in terms of understanding issues around anti-Black racism, equity, diversity. Our focus was really internal. It's been internal to start us off, and we've created a working group internally to just really dig deep into understanding what the issues are around anti-Black racism specifically, because that was the main focus initially, and thinking that we'd learn more about equity and diversity issues from that conversation. And we're at a point now, we hired a consultant to do this work to lead us through this, someone that's been doing this for over 40 years. And it's really exciting because we're in the middle of the review of that report and recommendations, and we're looking forward to what that looks like and how we're actually get to action it and make it happen. So Steve touched on the staffing pieces as one piece. A lot of our staff have, especially the frontline, the ones that are dealing with children and youth directly, have taken different courses already on their own time, just to learn more. There's a great organization called Youth Rex that does a lot of capacity building for organizations like ours that offer a great certificate program. So there's things like that are happening. And I think the opportunity to have conversations about this, I think this is in society, we've been able to increase that, but it's being more intentional about our programming and about the way we engage people. And I think I'll speak to the Neighborhood Ambassador program and some of the work that's being done there. We've been able to have some of those conversations and our interactions there too. So, yeah.
Thank you, Medin. And thank you for letting me put you on the spot. I appreciate it. So now moving to Jonelle. Hi, Jonelle. Hi. So now a lot of, there's been a lot of articles in the news about charities and charities having cash flow issues. And especially in 2020 and 2021, can you talk a little bit about how is BGC Ottawa doing, but also how are we replacing revenue from our very popular in-person events going into the second year of not having them?
Yeah, so that's been probably one of our biggest pivots in advancement. And I just want to thank, so many of the people on the call are donors to the club. So I want to start by saying thank you so much. Losing events was pretty devastating for us. I think many in this room would agree. We did some of the best events in the city, and so having to pivot on that was challenging. But what it did allow us to do was to look at all of our other fundraising channels and look at bolstering those. So, what I would say is now more than ever, our relationships with corporate Canada are so critical. Family foundations, other granting agencies, but especially, those individual donors who've supported us year after year, month after month. Jessie-Lee, I would say, monthly donations are so important, especially in a pandemic, because that's that reliable source of funding. So, we've really put an effort in growing our monthly donors. And we've had some success. And so I want to thank those of you who've, come on board and supported us with monthly donations. The other thing we've done from an events perspective is, while we canceled most, we still have one event that we ran in 2020, and that was our breakfast fundraiser. We ran that in September. So we're doing that again in 2021. It's now called the BGC Ottawa Morning Social. So mark your calendars, September 9th, 7:45. We want to see all of you there. And the reason we kept that event is because it's a fairly flexible event. And so we can do it virtually. So we've got a great virtual platform. People can join from the comfort of their own home, their offices. We're hopeful that by September 9th, people might be able to gather in smaller groups. So that's really what we've done. But I think I speak for all of us when I say we're just so grateful for people in Ottawa who've stepped up for us, and who are probably struggling with the pandemic themselves and have thought, I'm going to open my heart and I'm going to give back. And we're so grateful.
Thank you, Jonelle. Thanks so much. That's great. Okay, so Adam, I have an official question for you, but I also have 2 bonus questions from the chat. Okay, so I'm actually going to start with the bonus questions from the chat because I think people would like you to weigh in on something. So you joined the BGC Ottawa in what year? No, I won't tell them what year you joined. No. But I'll say you
a few decades ago.
Right, but you became CEO in May of 2020, which is a really challenging time to become CEO, although you've been with the organization for many years, right? And so Marco was wondering, how have you found your transition into the role of CEO during these trying times? And how have you handled it? What skills and support systems have helped you? So any way you want to answer that, but that was from Marco. Thanks, Marco.
Yeah, thanks, Jessie-Lee. 4 of the people in this room and on this call are the reason why I'm so very grateful to have this role, because I'm surrounded by wonderful support and staff that work so very hard to make a difference. And there's another 200 of these fine people that work with us here at the club to make a difference in the lives of children and youth. So, that's an easy question when you're surrounded by highly skilled, highly trained, highly effective team members that really support the work that the club does. In terms of the transition, obviously, it's an interesting time to take on a leadership role in an organization, but I wouldn't change a single thing. I was lucky enough growing up at the club to have fantastic mentors and leaders to teach me the skills that I use today. And now I'm surrounded by people that help guide that work. We have a fantastic board of volunteers who, spend time with our leadership group and myself, and support the work that we do. And then, the staff that are there to support the day-to-day operations. So I think it's a real team effort. And even though my role has changed, the organization has changed, and it's the leadership in this group and at the club that's allowed us to continue to grow. And that famous 2020 word pivot so effectively. I'm simply loving the role that I'm in now, and really learning a lot about what else we can do in this community and how we can continue to grow as an organization and to help more kids.
Thanks, Adam. That's great. So I also wanted to ask you, as some people may already know, our clubhouses are officially closed at the moment. However, there are still programmatic offerings happening. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how BGC Ottawa continues to support families and young people even now in the stay-at-home order?
So our members are not just members; they're like family to the staff and to the club. And we want to make sure that we're supporting them no matter when they need it and how they need it. And so when the pandemic hit, we really did have to pivot pretty hard to different programs. Steve really did talk to this earlier. And, things like the Provincial Youth Outreach Worker Program, the Diversion Program, the Neighbourhood Ambassador Programs, these are all just names for people listening. But what they really count to is an opportunity for young people to continue to connect with the club. We were also one of the first locations to reopen in-club programming, where we offer programs and services in the city, in a club, which quite an opportunity to be back and very excited. And we've actually had to do that a few times just to try and make sure that.
Sorry, Adam, just to clarify, was this in July 2020?
Yeah, so yeah. By July 21st, we had reopened our doors, and we've been trying to stay open as much as possible while obviously adhering to all of the COVID regulations that we need to keep everyone safe. So, you know, we certainly did try to continue those programs, and we'll be back into in-person programming soon. In the meantime, the virtual programs, our virtual clubs, our outreach, and our Neighborhood Ambassador program are going to continue going strong. And as the legislation changes, you know, one of Medin's biggest challenges is to try and stay on top of all the different transitions in legislation. And as things change, and as we're able to do more, we will. Our goal is to be there for our families no matter what. So we'll continue doing so.
Thanks so much, Adam. That's great. So now I actually would like to go back to Medin and ask Medin. Hang on, I'm muting myself, which is class. Okay, can you tell me a little bit more about when we say virtual programs or the virtual clubhouse or virtual anything, what are we actually talking about? Like what does it look like if, let's say, I'm a youth and I'm trying to access those services? Can you walk me through that, Medin?
For sure, yeah. You know, it's so as you mentioned earlier, we started off like most agencies trying to serve children and youth, just doing something. And the point of doing virtual, pivoting to virtual, was about keeping connected with those that we serve. So we made sure just to start something. It's formed a year and a bit later now into a full clubhouse. And so what we did was mimic the programming that we were doing in person. We have some core programs under each of the pillars and put them online. So programs such as Homework Club, we have Homework Club that's running online. Programs like Art Now, which was in-person engagement, we have that running online. Other things, so there's the core programs that we run. And so people, because of the nature of this virtual situation, we've had to be a bit more cautious in terms of how we get people to sign up, how we protect their information, how we, you know, ensure safety that's being done. So we've had to do a lot of learning around that. When you go to our website now, and I don't know if Nick can add it to the chat, or I could add it to the chat, the actual link. We have a direct link to our virtual clubhouse where you can see the programs and all the schedule, the program schedule. And so there's also our coordinator for the clubhouse that you can, if we can give her email as well, just to get information. But we just ask you to sign up. It's a free membership. And that way it protects your ability to access the information. And, you know, as a parent, for those that are getting their children to sign up, it's a safe space for them to be in. It's monitored with, you know, children and youth workers that we have. We have it right now. Fortunately, we have a lot more that are providing that support, because our in-club staff are doing virtual as well as our virtual staff. And so lots of opportunities to do that. I think you have some other questions, but can I just add one more piece to this?
You bet you can. Sure.
Everyone's always curious about the numbers. And so, you know, it's hit and miss in terms of numbers. It can be as small as 5 people for a session to as many as 40, 45. And, you know, typically it's those sessions where it's a special event. So we ran a Halloween event in October that we had a really great turnout, but it was a one-off event where there's a lot of attraction and attention to. The ones that have smaller numbers, it's consistent programming and it's the consistent group of kids. And so for that group of kids, it continues to be a service that they are attracted to and continue to be attracted to. So we've decided, instead of doing just one-off programs, invest a lot more into longer term, because it meets the needs of that group of young people. So that's a bit of a snapshot of Virtual Clubhouse.
Thank you, Medin. That's great. So I think I'm going to take a moment and launch our second and final poll, okay, for everyone who's attending. So hang on while I launch this. So we have a lot of different locations and satellite locations. So if you like now, you can vote for your very favorite. I'll leave that up here for a little bit. Okay, I see that Tomlinson is in the lead right now. I'm just going to say, but if you like Ron Colbus, or Hetherington is also gaining a little bit of traction, just so everyone knows. So make sure you vote.
Thanks for letting the panelists vote on this one. We couldn't vote on the first one.
I'm sorry about that. My
That's okay, Jessie-Lee. I always like to weigh in.
Just another few seconds for the poll. I think most of you voted. Okay, so right now Tomlinson is still in the lead. Ron Colbus closing in. Okay. Perfect. Another couple seconds. We'll end the polling. All right. I don't know, it's neck and neck with Ron Colbus and Tomlinson Family Foundation Clubhouse right now, just so you know. Is someone saying Camp Smitty second place? Oh, I'm reading this wrong. There's going to be controversy after, but it's okay. I'll post it so everybody can see. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Just be a moment.
You got to say all of them win. It's 100%.
I know. Everybody wins.
Come on, Jessie-Lee. Yeah.
If you're a member of one club, you're a member of all the clubs. So that's.
Here we go. I'm going to share the results so everybody can see it. Okay. Ron Colbus, Tomlinson. Of course, everyone wins though. Of course. There we go. Great. Okay. So I did want to ask a couple questions that were also just asked in the chat and then were submitted earlier today. So random question, popcorn question. So this goes out to anybody. Is there an alumni group? If someone cares deeply about BGC Ottawa, where can they join if they were an alumni? So.
Well, clearly you can join the staff team. You can join the staff team at the Boys and Girls Club because there's 4 of us on here right now. But you know, there's a lot of places. So there are some Facebook pages which Nicholas can hopefully add to the chat so that you know where to go to add that piece and to become one of our special alumni that accesses the Facebook groups that we run. But the second thing is, which is really exciting and it's coming up very soon, is our 100-year anniversary. Mm-hmm. So, you know, Boys and Girls Club's been here for almost 100 years in Ottawa. That's going to be a very special, it's 2023. So we're a few years away, but we really want to ramp that up because we really want to connect with all of the old members, new members that make the Boys and Girls Club, the BGC Ottawa special place. So, you know, the club's obviously changed a lot over the years. When the club first launched, it was woodworking and boxing were, you know, 2 big programs that we offered. And now it's, as you know, our 4 pillars, you know, the leadership, the social skills, the education, the creative arts, the physical activity, health and wellness. So, you know, we want to capture that history. We want to know what the past of the Boys and Girls Club was, and so you can be part of our future, the BGC Ottawa. It's really important. So we hope that that you'll consider joining those groups and be part of what's to come.
Thanks, Adam. So we have another question, just a general question. Can you give us a Camp Smitty update? What does camp potentially look like this summer? And should I toss that to you, Medin? What do you think?
Well, Medin, why don't you start? And if I can add, I'll add some stuff. How does that sound?
Okay.
Sure. We're part of an association, the Ontario Camp Association, and it's a collective of many agencies that are really advocating and just getting ready for what the summer's like. I think there's no secret, you know, people's mental health gets improved with outdoor experience and just being able to be out there. And so we're really hoping that we could launch it. We haven't made a final decision about what we're doing this summer. Our team of staff that's working on that now, we're talking about it all the time. We had a call just even today, just looking at the latest information, because that's the way, you know, most programs have had to shift this year. It's a daily check the number of issues that are, the number of, well, now we get to talk about the number of vaccines. So how many people are getting vaccinated? So that's a more positive story there. But, you know, for camp, we haven't decided on whether we're keeping it open this summer or not. We're heavily leaning towards that and hoping, you know, we'll be able to make that decision soon and open. We're just waiting for some directive from the government to be able to make that decision safely, fairly. We like others, we had to be closed last summer and shift to day programming. And so this summer, we're really hoping there's some motto, and we have a great team ready to make that happen.
Thank you, Medin. That's great. So I wanted to also just reiterate, you know, in 2020 and 2021, BGC Ottawa, and I should mention why BGC Ottawa, if you haven't heard already. So why are we saying BGC Ottawa instead of Boys and Girls Club of Ottawa? If you have seen our recent social media, we've rebranded along with BGC Canada and other clubs across Canada to be more inclusive of all youth and young people. And there's a really great video that Nick will share in the chat or afterwards, and so you can learn more about that brand, but just I thought it might be good to pause and explain that. So BGC Ottawa is still the Boys and Girls Club of Ottawa, but we now refer to ourselves as BGC Ottawa. I also wanted to go to Adam now. So Adam, we hopefully, as a club, will be reopening sometime soon as the schools open. What does that look like for us?
It's a great question, and you know, it's one that we can anticipate, but one we can't really truly understand until what Medin had said earlier about legislation. So our number one priority at all times for all of our members is their safety. And by members, I mean our staff, our volunteers, and our actual members and their parents and the community that they're in. So what opening looks like when we're back to in-club programming will be a safe and supportive place. And we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that, you know, we have the proper policies and procedures in place, and we're keeping people as safe as possible while still allowing them an opportunity to engage, interact in person. You know, this whole piece, one thing I think we can all agree to, and everybody on this call I'm sure would agree to this, is it's really taught us that connections are so important. And, you know, we're lucky in a way that we have such fantastic donors that have let us pivot to virtual programming and different opportunities. You know, and our hope is to be able to bring back that in-club programming as quickly as possible. So, you know, it could be generally, right now we meet with the schools. So as the schools reopen, we will be able to reopen because we're an after-school program, and then hopefully running camps in the summer. But again, it's all based on legislation. Like I said, Medin and his team spend a lot of time trying to understand what we can and cannot do. And so we'll continue to do that to make sure that we're offering programs as quickly as possible.
Thanks, Adam. So we have just a few more questions left, and I want to make sure that I get to all of our questions and all of yours. But we did want to ask the attendees something. So here's a quick question for all the attendees with us today. In the chat, if you want to, can you tell us in one word, what does BGC Ottawa mean to you? We'd love to see it. Okay, so go ahead, put that in the chat. We'll be looking at them shortly. And I also wanted to go to Steve now, because I understand that BGC Ottawa has a really big vision and that there's some really great plans underway. Can you share a little bit about that, and what does that mean in the next few years for us?
Yeah, thanks, Jessie-Lee. Great question. So we every year have a board retreat in the fall, and in September of 2019, so just before the pandemic, we got together for a full day planning session, and we talked about what the future of the club looks like for us. And for us, it's always about having a greater impact in our community, a greater impact with our members, and a greater number of members that we have an impact with. And there's something that I still have on my desktop, so I'm going to pull it up, that we wrote. I took a picture of the flip chart paper from that day, and I think about this every day. And you know, after the full day of meetings and ambitious discussions, where we settled is that we want to be Ottawa's leader in children and youth development, impacting every vulnerable neighborhood. And to me, that is just a rallying cry to be able to get up every day and say we want to do more. So we also put out a figure of doubling our impact. So at that time, we had 4,500 members and over 110,000 visits in 2019. And so we want to double that within 5 years of that point, so by 2024. And I gotta say, we're already making some pretty big strides. We're probably not officially allowed to be talking about this, but we got a $5 million grant after a lot of work from the federal and provincial governments, endorsed by the Ottawa municipal government, to build a new clubhouse in the South End, the community that needs it the most in Ottawa. That there's very little programming in that neighborhood. There's very little support. We have a tiny satellite clubhouse in Hetherington, and we're going to blow this up. We're going to have a state-of-the-art, beautiful facility that could do hundreds of kids a night, welcome them in, and have thousands of members to be able to go to that club. In this past few months, we've already taken on another clubhouse in addition, Notre Dame High School, which is just around the corner from me, to be able to expand our programming here in Westboro. We have conversations all the time about taking over in other neighborhoods. We've got two that are pretty significant right now. I don't want to let any cats out of the bag more than I have, but I feel like we are absolutely on this growth path to double our impact in the community, both in terms of the number of members we have, the number of visits that we have, but most importantly, the depth of that connection and impact that we have with our members. And that's our goal. And I think that's where we're going to land in 2024.
Thanks, Steve. Well, you heard it here, doubling our impact in members and potentially locations by 2024. So we have a couple more questions that I want to make sure that we get to in the next few minutes. So one quick question that I'm just going to throw out to the group. When can adult volunteers come back to clubhouses when people are vaccinated? And I know that's a bit of a tentative question, but can you share a little bit of details on volunteering and the state of volunteering right now?
I'll jump in for this one. I'm happy to say we have been able to have volunteers back in the clubhouse. It's not to the same extent, but we definitely have. We have student placements that we've had since September. We've had virtual volunteers as well that have been supporting the program that we do online. For example, we do tutoring now online through our homework club. So that's been a great way of volunteering, and it keeps you connected with the kids. And so that's, if you're looking for ways to stay connected, those are some of the ways that we still do. In terms of when we return to in-person programming, our volunteer coordinator is still there. It has a wait list of people that want to do volunteering. And once we start expanding that list, you'll be able to do it. So we can share that information for in terms of getting your name on there, making sure you're on there. I don't know if the question is coming from a former volunteer that's just eager to get back in, but we are keeping track of who our volunteers are, so that once we are able to open up more, hoping for this summer, if things continue to decrease, and nobody knows timelines really, but we have had volunteers, and so there has been some space for volunteers already, and that will only grow as the year goes on.
Thank you, Medin. I want to just take a moment and read what some of the attendees wrote, the one word that they associated with BGC Ottawa. So Louise, thank you, Louise, wrote care. We also, from Robert, received improvement. And Doris said opportunity. So I think that's all pretty great. There is also a question from Cynthia. Do you work with other youth organizations?
I'll jump in on this one. I see Medin and Steve will we always want to jump at these questions because it's just so exciting whenever we're going to do this again for sure, because I think this is great, even just to share some of the work that we do. So thank you for that question. We are all about collaboration. You can't work in a silo in this work. You have to be able to work with others. And there's some other great organizations that we support and partner with on a regular basis. We sit on different tables, we lead different tables. One table that there's so many that I can get into, but the Youth Leadership Collective is an example of a table that we support. There's about 30 different partners at that table, all from other youth serving organizations, other organizations within the city. Obviously in COVID, the work is a little bit different, more Zoom calls than in person, and more partnership opportunities through this than through other ways. But we partner with lots of different youth organizations throughout the city. And frankly, Boys and Girls Club, BGC Canada, there's BGCs across Canada, and we certainly work with those organizations as well. The list is large. To give you a list would take probably the rest of our time, and I wouldn't want to miss any. But we definitely see collaboration as an impact, and we want to make sure we're working with partners to have the most impact for the members that we serve and the community as a whole.
And I'll add really briefly that I recently sent out a note in regards to our annual general meeting, and there were over 60 partners associated with that, but we probably maybe even have more. So quite a few. So there are a couple more points that I want to make sure we get to really briefly. Medin, can you summarize, and I know we touched on it, what the Neighborhood Ambassador Program is in just a few simple words? What does that mean, and what is that program, and how are we doing that right now?
Sure. So, I mean, the Neighborhood Ambassador Program is a great example of partnerships, not just with youth organizations, but other agencies serving social service agencies. And so the Neighborhood Ambassador Program is a collaboration between Ottawa Public Health, City of Ottawa, their community development team, the Integrated Neighborhood Services team, and ourselves. On our end, it's led by the Provincial Youth Outreach Worker Program, which has been in existence for over 15 years. And we have a group of staff that do outreach in communities and make connections with young people in ways that are long lasting. You know, we understand the value of long-term relationships with community members, and especially with children and youth, that you have to develop that trust and bond. And so this team has taken on this program, which is the Neighborhood Ambassador Program, where we've hired I think we're almost at 30 young people that are from the communities we serve across the city, that are from as young as, I think, 17 up into almost 30, who are going out into parks, basically any spaces that we can find children and youth. And we do have a focus in terms of who we're reaching, but we've been interacting with kids as young as 4 or 5 years old in the parks to well over 30. And so the point of the program is really to get information out there right now related to what's happening and our biggest concerns in our community. So dealing with issues around COVID and getting that information out. Initially, it was a lot about addressing issues around masks and making sure people understand the distancing from each other, and making sure that the information that's being pumped out is getting to the young people. So with outreach workers, they're able to interact in a way that doesn't rely on the virtual, doesn't rely on social media, doesn't rely on having them come into our spaces, which has been limited for all agencies. This way, we're actually going out to them. And so making that connection, making that bond, and then if there are issues that they brought up or need some support with, they're able to be referred back through our provincial youth outreach workers, or even our other programs that can refer them to the appropriate services and agencies that provide that kind of service, whether it's addiction services or employment. Employment is usually the number one question young people have. They want to talk about that. Where can I get the job? And so, that's this program started off as a pilot in the summer, and it's grown. We're doing it all year long now, and we engage different community partners on, how do we reach the young people that you serve? How can we give them the information about the programs that you offer? And so, yeah, it's been great so far. We've really enjoyed the partnerships. A lot of different people around the table for that, and we're hoping that can grow a little bit more.
Thank you so much, Medin. So Jonelle, you get the last word. So I'm going to ask you a question. So if people want to help this year, what are some of the ways, in addition to what you already mentioned, that they could help?
That's a really great question. I think, with our morning social, which I mentioned, it's a great opportunity to get involved, regardless of whether you're part of a family or you're doing it as part of your workplace. It's a great way. And so I'll get Nick to put that link up in the chat. I talked about monthly giving. The thing I did want to address, because we get a lot of questions about in-kind support. And so unfortunately, because of COVID restrictions, we're no longer at this time accepting in-kind or gifts in kind rather. So, donations of objects, and, some people may have something that they're looking to give to the club. And so what they can do, and again, we can link it in the chat, is go to Give Shop, where they can actually put those items up for sale. It's like a Kijiji, but for charities, and they can receive a charitable tax receipt and give the proceeds to the BGC Ottawa. So that's a unique way that you can support the club right now. And like we said earlier, we hope very soon to have our volunteers back. There's such a source of, so many of our members are looking for them and waiting for their favorite volunteer to come back. And so that's coming soon. But those are the ways you can support. And if anyone out here is thinking about making a gift and maybe they're a new donor, we have a match right now going on, which is very exciting, with Hoban Architecture. They're a great partner of the club. They're going to match all donations from new donors up until the end of June. So if you know of someone who's considering a gift to the club, now's a great time, because you can actually double your impact through that great match.
Thank you so much, Jonelle. So if it's okay with everyone here, I'm going to end our time today by reading a comment from Sammy. So Sammy says, BGC Ottawa means family, people that care and will go above and beyond to ensure that children and youth feel safe, build strong relationships, and overcome barriers. And one word, BGC Ottawa is caring. So thank you so much to everyone for joining us tonight. We deeply appreciate your time. We know how precious it is. And also, we look forward to seeing you either online once again, but hopefully at one of our clubhouses soon. So thank you so very much, and we wish everybody a really great night.